Stand by.
Loading. Loading complete.
30,
29, 28,
27,
26,
25, 24,
20,
22,
21, 20, 19, 18,
17,
16, 15, 14, 13, 12, 11, 10,
9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 2,
1. Now for what you've all been waiting for.
Oh, good morning, good day, good evening, good night, good whatever it happens to be where you are. And hello to everyone who watches this in the future. Oh, look at that. We've got peoples in the chat. And see, it says only one watching. So whoever happens to be watching, hello. See, we had a Deep State Annex, had Data Zord. Over here, we had and Godless Granny. Yeah, okay, Godless Granny is still here. Hello, ho. Hopefully, we get more people watching later on. As for your question, I made that intro. So maybe you might be interested in me making you one, and for you as well. Yeah, I guess so. So, getting right into it. I hope you remembered to bring in your earplugs because I'm going to be singing. Every morning, every evening, ain't we got fun? Not much money, oh but honey, ain't we got fun? The rent's unpaid, dear, we haven't a bus. But smiles were made, dear, for people like us. In the winter, in the summer, don't we have fun? Times are bombing, getting bummer, still we have fun. There's nothing sure, the rich get rich and the poor get poor. In the meantime, in between time, ain't we got fun? Tax collectors getting closer, still we have fun. Twins and cares, dear, come in pairs, dear, don't we have fun? We've only started, no, we're not downhearted. When I'm laid off, I'll be paid off, ain't we got fun? Times we're mad and getting madder, ain't we got fun? Times are bad and getting badder, still we have fun. There's nothing sure, the rich get rich and the poor get poor. In the meantime, in between time, ain't we got fun? Ain't we got fun? Well, I hope we have fun. That's kind of part of what this is about. Now, let's break out the old wheel here, so we can find out what other song to do. Oh, Henry VIII. Well, everybody's just in trouble now tonight, aren't they? Okay. Let's see here. Okay, there we are. I'm Henriette, I am Henriette, I am, I am. I got married to the wood next door. She's been married 7 times before, and all of them named Henry. Henry, she never will her Sam. No Sam, I'm Henriette, old man. Henriette, I am. Second verse, same as the first. I'm Henriette, I am. Henriette, I am, I am. I got married to the wood next door. She's been married 7 times before, and all of them named Henry. Henry, she never will her Sam. No Sam, I'm Henriette, old man. Henriette, I am. Oh, I'm Henry VIII, I am Henry VIII, I am. I got married to a weird next door. She's been married 7 times before, and all of them and Henry, shoot out the will or Sam. No Sam. I'm Henry old man, Henry VIII, I am. Henry, Henry VIII, I am. Henry VIII, I am. Yeah. Okay. Well, last week I completely forgot how to cover the artist list. So we'll be doing a little bit of double duty tonight, and we'll be starting things right off with that beat. So our first artist to cover, and the one I meant to cover last week, goes by the name of Lammy Art. She seems to do some abstract art and focusing on African American painting. You can see some of her stuff hanging on the wall here. Looks like a seashore. There, and you can see the African art there. Let's find a good one here. Oh, looks like she does some crafts as well. Putting together a very nice looking purse. We have her switch over to her Instagram here real quick. It seems to be where more of her artwork is placed. Sure. So let's see. You can see some of her abstract art right there. More of the abstract art there. And did I see something about doing commissions or handcrafted abstracts? Send me a message for more details on order. Okay, so you can contact character here for any orders you might want at the car of lemedy88@gmail.com. Looks like. So our second artist for today. Should just kind of squeeze in one of these a day, but yeah, do 2 of them since we forgot last week. And this one goes by the name Asha, looks like. A digital artist, loves to draw and play video games, but the commissions are closed right now. You can see some of the artwork here. This is one that has pinned. This one goes by Rose Gold Mercy. I'm guessing it's probably from the video game. Yeah, another one there. So it's kind of an anime style little artwork, the looks of it. Luna Snow. That's the Marvel Rivals character from the video game. So yeah, she does these characters from video games by the looks of it. And again, Marvel Rivals from Cloak and Dagger. So I actually like this one. Really kind of captures the character's personalities pretty well. But like I said, the commissions are closed. When we go over to a link tree here, we can see a print shop here, so you can buy prints of their work. You can see they have some anime characters here. Uraraka from My Hero Academia, of Jinx, Momo, and Okarun. So, and they're pretty reasonably priced prints, or maybe about $9-10. Looks like $9 right now, slash down from 10. At in PRNT imprint.com. So you want to look at looks like you want to look for let's see the name by OSHA. So I guess you'd look up her name and you'd find in their prints. So that's our artists. And some people trickling in here. Theta-Zord, are you still out there? Or did you run away? I noticed you have your theater night after my show, so I'll try and remember to put a link out for you at the end of at the end of my show here. All right. Excuse me for a little bit of coughing and stuff. I'm still trying to get over the bronchitis. But we'll get into a little bit more, or a couple more songs to break up things here a little. So our next song. What do we get here? Good morning. All right, we can do Skidamarink. Down on the Bulla Bulla Island, where the mermaids strut, reigns a big grief crocodile beneath an oyster plant. He loved the scenes of selfishly, queen of the gay white wave. Each night in his shell he'd go to sea, and in tunes full scales he'd rave. Skidamarink-a-dink-a-boop, skidamarink-a-doo, means I love you. Skidamarink-a-dink-a-boop, skidamarink-a-doo, means I'll be true. Skidamarink-a-dink-a-boop, skidamarink-a-doo. All the time he sang this rhyme. Skidamarink-a-dink-boop, skidamarink-a-doo, means I love you. But when the midnight moon was pale, Kingfish Kokomo came floating over with his tail to say he loved her so. But she was true to crocodile, say coconut, go away. I know in a very little while you hear my lover say, Skidamarink-a-dink-a-boop, skidamarink-a-doo, I love you. Skidamarink-a-dink-a-boop, skidamarink-a-doo, I love you. I love you in the morning and in the afternoon. I love you in the evening underneath the moon. Skidamarink-a-dink-a-boop, skidamarink-a-doo, I love you. Okay. Now, try and keep my throat numbed with a little Tullamore Dew honey. I've also got some fruit juice and water with me, of course. So, in this show, let's promote some alcoholism. Drink them if you got them. No. Careful, not always make sure to drink in moderation, of course. All right. Yeah, we got another person popping in. Hello. The stop stupidity. Yeah, okay. It's a very good thing to stop. Moving on to our news segments here. Or should I do one more song before we move on to the news segments? Yeah, let's do one more song before we move on to the news segments. How's that sound? So, one more song. You must have been a beautiful baby. Okay. You must have been a beautiful baby. You must have been a wonderful child. When you were only starting to go to kindergarten, the message of the little boy was wild. And when it came to winning blue ribbons, You must have shown the other kids how. I can see the judge's eyes as they handed you the prize. You must have made the cutest bow. Oh, you must have been a beautiful baby, 'cause baby, look at you now. Does your mother realize the stork delivered quite a prize the day he left you on the family tree? Does your dad appreciate that you're merely super great? A miracle for any century. If they don't, just send them both to me. Oh, you must have been a beautiful baby. You must have been a wonderful child. When you were only starting to go to kindergarten, you must have drove the little boys wild. And when it came to winning blue ribbons, you must have shown the other kids how. I can see the judge's eyes as they handed you the prize. You must have made the cutest bow. Oh, you must have been a beautiful baby, 'cause baby, look at you now. I do like that one. And for those of you just joining and listening to me singing, well, I hope you brought your earplugs, and if you didn't, I'm sure the bleeding will stop soon enough. Okay, on to the news segment. All right. Netflix is using AI to upscale a 1980 sitcom, and the results in borderline and horrific. As for this, good question. Basically, they're trying to use upscaling using AI upscaling and passing it off as HD. Yeah, that's not how you use that's not how you use AI. But you see, it's creating all these nice little well, horrific elements like this kid's face here. Uh, from the very first frame, you can tell there's something off about Netflix's his version of A Different World, The Cosby Show, a spin-off that aired on NBC from 1987 to 1993. He is spotted by developer and blogger Scott Hanselman, and the streamer or whatever right holder licensed the show to it. The show or whatever right holder licensed the show to it. Seriously, he bungled its effort it's to upscale the decades-old footage, which was originally shot on film and made it available on DVD since then. Don't use AI this way. I'm not. I don't have anything against AI, honestly, but this is not how you use it. The show was added earlier this month and is currently listed as being HD, which I was just saying. But on-screen artifacts quickly make it clear that an algorithm is being used to increase the sharpness of pixelated frames with sometimes comedically awful results. The intro credit is already raised alarm bell with mangled hands and misaligned facial features, whose bungled logo, whose overall smear lines that don't meet up. And we can see some examples on right here with the faces and some weird lines that don't meet up. In other words, it's all the hallmarks of sloppy AI. Yeah, someone just kind of put it through upscale and didn't really check for artifacts. Except that instead of screwing up a single little scene, it was the case with the AI generated posters appearing in the 2024 episode of HBO's True Detective. Those shortcomings are apparent throughout the show. And that's the first few seconds. The rest of the show, whose pilot, it doesn't fare much better. With weird looking faces is another detail throughout, particularly glaring in his background on text. Recent director. Okay. Uh, which in some which in the source material was clearly too pixelated to be coherent, resulting in the AI filling in a garbled script that looks like an alien language. In short, it's an egregious example of how AI slaw is infiltrating in almost every aspect of the entertainment industry and our daily lives. Even shows that stopped airing over 30 years ago aren't safe. Get your physical media. That's how we can protect from this kind of stuff. Did we really need a smear reimagining of our beloved 90s sitcom? I'm not sure how beloved it is anymore, or with Cosby's rap, but at any rate, uh, a different world is now besmirched by its association with Bill Cosby. Well, just what I was just saying, but it was culturally important when it came out. Okay, fair enough, fair point. Confronting social issues like the HIV crisis in a mainstream way is clearly important enough to put on Netflix. Why isn't it important enough to present viewers with a good viewing experience? Very good question. And yeah, I suppose from a cultural historical perspective, it is worth having. At the end of the way, eh, what does Netflix think viewers prefer? The original blur of an analog show from decades ago, or a version that looks crisp, a quick glance, but that it's insulting their intelligence and mangling television history. Personally, I'll go with the blurry stuff. Uh, what would you guys would prefer? Blurry or AI a mangled old crispness? The results can be downright horrific. Check out this, which is apparently supposed to be a family photo, except that everyone's face has been replaced by a geometric mash. Uh, ooh, everybody's faces is kind of blurred and distorted there, huh? So we still get blurry. The show, in its original format, it was blurry, but it didn't really matter because you watched it far away on a CRT. He said in Henselman, and who worked on an AI at Microsoft in a recent TikTok video, referring to cathode ray tube TV. He's predated flat panel screens. It's absolutely iconic show, and you can upscale it. You can make one blurry pixel into four pixels, or 4 pixels into 16 pixels, yada yada. But you gotta have the information come from somewhere, or Hansel and explained. And there are different kinds of upscaling, and there still isn't enough information to make main characters as Dwayne and Whitney look correct. Which kind of gets into the whole, ever see those TV crime and dramas where they zoom in and enhance. Well, it's kind of like what they're doing, but but the truth is there really isn't any information for them to enhance. It's to do that, so that's all fiction, really. Despite it looking amazing in 4K and HDR, Henselman noted that there is obviously something wrong with Whitney's mouth and teeth in the Netflix version. And text gets jumbled badly because this AI can't read. Henselman explained, and rather than guessing the phrase or guessing the words, the AI just is upscale that it looks like hieroglyphics. You can see another example here with some weird text stuff. Pretty common for AI. The problem is AI upscaling image technology isn't quite there yet. I kind of doubt it'll ever really be there, or to really give you what you're looking for with this. You included you still would need to do some human intervention to prevent this kind of stuff, I think. He concluded, so what you end up with is an uncanny valley. In a follow-up video, Hanselman clarified that there are plenty of ways to faithfully upscale TV shows which tend and to be far more resource intensive than simply having an AI churn through every frame. Yes, but you get better results. So stop being lazy, Hollywood. The use of generative AI in television has reached a fever pitch much earlier this year. For instance, Amazon Prime video came under fire for adorning the iconic 1922 horror film Nosferatu with a slapdash poster that was obviously AI generated. Netflix has previously leaned into the controversy last as your review spotted far-gargled AI images in the Netflix true crime documentary called What Jennifer Did. The streaming service also came under fire earlier this month for using generative AI to reproduce the voice of Gabby Petito, the 22-year-old social media influencer who, according to the FBI, was murdered by her fiance in 2021. Ooh, that's not good, man. As generative AI continues to infiltrate almost every aspect of our daily life, the tech has sparked a major debate within the entertainment industry. In 2023, Hollywood actors went on strike, decrying the use of AI to replicate their likenesses. Futurists reach out to Netflix for comments, which doesn't look like they got any, apparently. And see here. Use AI to make granny rock and knit in my intro and outro on my latest video. My editing software has an image to video feature. Granny needs feet move too much though. Like I said, I don't have any problem with AI. I mean, I'm doing AI generated songs from the lyrics I write to put on this channel. Oh. And the robot you see in the intro was actually an image I generated from AI, and then I edited it up a little bit. Same with the room for the videos I use as well. So you can use AI for small tasks like these things. And honestly, I don't really have all that big of a deal with places using AI to create movie posters either. I mean, they probably should put a little bit more work into them, and then just sloppily letting a generative AI do all the work. But that's something an artist can go back in and fix. Next on the news. Now, this one I didn't really read through beforehand, so we're going to find out what this thing says together. I just kind of saw the title and put it aside for the show. Tanya, Disney Plus series, is shelved as Walt Disney Animation abandons long-form streaming content exclusive. To the Hollywood Reporter, huh? First announced in 2020, the Disney Plus show was envisioned as a musical feature. Annika Naoni Heroes, reprising her role as Tanya, Disney's first black princess, from The Princess and the Frog, which, if you haven't seen this movie yet, I recommend going to see. It's actually a really good one, and it was the last 2D animated film that Disney put out, which is a real shame because they really should go back to doing that instead of trying to do all this live action remake crap. Walt Disney Animated Studios has officially pulled the plug on its Tanya Princess series as it abandons making original long form content for streaming. Oh, lovely. And abandoning their original long form content. So, less reason to subscribe to them. A spokesman confirmed there will be some layoffs in its Vancouver studio as a result of this shift in business strategy. In addition to the Tanya series, the studio is also scrapping an unannounced feature length project that it was set to go straight to Disney Plus. Okay. Tanya was first announced in December 2020 and was envisioned as a musical featuring Anna Kanoni Rose, who's reprising her role as Tanya from the 2009 film The Princess and the Frog. The film centered on Disney's first black princess. Sources close to streaming series say that despite best effort, it's including several changes to the creative team, Tanya ultimately could not get to where it needed to be given production costs. Still, Princess and the Frog remains a key property for the company, as Tanya is one of Disney's canon princesses. Last year, the Splash Mountain attraction was revamped at both Disney's and U.S. parks and transformed into Tanya's Bayou Adventure. There's a lot of people who kind of didn't like that, though I can kind of see where they would want to do repurpose is a theme with this character and all. The animation studio is set to developing a separate short form special inspired by The Princess and the Frog, which is currently in early development, though details of the project remain under wraps. It's expected to feature all new storytelling being based on the 2009 film, with Joyce Shear attached as director and writer. I don't know who that is. And Steve Vanderson also was directing. The decision in the shell of Tanya in the unannounced Disney Plus movie, he followed last year's news that Pixar would no longer prioritize as developing long form episodic content after the release of Dream Productions and Win or Lose on Disney Plus. I don't even know what either of those are. During the pandemic, some Disney execs, including the CEO Bob Chapek, press its various film silos to make original content for Disney Plus in order to grow subscribers. They pulled some sneaky crap with that Disney Plus thing. And for instance, if you subscribe once and then you say you decide you don't want it anymore and you close down your subscription, and they just consider that to be a paused subscriber and still count you as a subscriber rather than in reducing their numbers. So they're actually inflating the numbers that way artificially. Plus, there was that whole controversy of the terms of service with D Plus, where they claim that you can't sue them for anything, which happened with somebody dying due to an allergy, which I suppose wasn't really Disney's fault directly, but she did ask if there was any allergens of the specific allergen she had in the food, and was repeatedly told no, but it was still in there. So there was this. So her husband sued and got into this whole big thing. Walt Disney Animations Moana 2 was originally conceived as an animated series before being reimagined as a theatrical release. This decision that paid off in spades and led into a $1 billion plus run at the global box office. Wait, there was a second Moana? a day March 12th on Disney Plus, where it's also expected to generate huge numbers. Maybe not that huge. The first small release in 2016 and became a cult classic with kids and was the most watched streaming movie in 2024 according to Nielsen. And that, along with the 1.87 billion earned by Pixar, there's Inside Out 2. I haven't. I've got Inside Out on my list to watch. I still haven't seen it, and from what I've seen of Inside Out 2, it looks pretty good. The biggest movie of 2024 provided that theatrical is an animation's greatest strength. Insiders say that Walt Disney Animation remains committed to releasing in one theatrical film per year, in addition to other shorts and special projects. Zootopia 2 is slated for release on November 26th, with the studio's new chief creative officer, Jared Bush. Step up to direct and write with Disney's vet Byron and Howard are also directing. And an unannounced feature is scheduled for November 2026, well, the third installment in the blockbuster Frozen franchise is set for 2027. Again, Zootopia was actually pretty good. So again, that's one you haven't seen, go check it out. Short form is widely popular in streaming in Bluey, which Disney Plus is licensed was the most watched show in the U.S. last year, according to Nielsen. Disney Animation in past short form streaming projects include the Emmy the award-winning Zootopia, and plus in Disney the Baymax series. Oh. Yeah. DJ Play Nights, hello. Just covering the news segments here right now. Yeah. Now, covering a little bit of sad news. Getting into a little bit of sad news here, but we finally found out how Gene Hackman and his wife passed, and one of their dogs, unfortunately. This is pretty tragic too. Gene Hackman died of a heart attack of heart disease. His wife died of hantavirus. It's about 1 week prior, autopsy reveals. Hantavirus being this virus that will cause kidney problems. Hantavirus is in New Mexico hillside home, and he may not. Actor Gene Hackman died of heart disease. He's a full week after his wife died from hantavirus in their New Mexico hillside home, and he may not have been aware she was dead because he showed several signs of Alzheimer's disease. His authority is revealed on Friday. They really probably should have somebody going in and checking on them periodically. This is tragedy. Both deaths were ruled to be from natural causes. His chief medical examiner, Dr. Heather Gerald, said it alongside a state fire and health official at a news conference. Mr. Hackman showed evidence of advanced Alzheimer's disease. Gerald said he was in a very poor state of health. He had significant heart disease, and I think ultimately that was what resulted in his death. Authorities didn't suspect foul play after the body of Hackman, 95, and Betsy Arakawa, 65, were discovered on February 26. Immediate tests for carbon monoxide poisoning were negative. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. It was it was at first when I first heard about this story. It might have been carbon monoxide poisoning, seeing as they had all three of them had, him, his wife, and one of the dogs all dead. And I guess the dog just wasn't able to get out of his kennel and just died of starvation or thirst or something, whereas the others were able to escape and still get get something in them. Actor Gene Hackman in Arai. He's with his wife Betsy. That's the caption for that. Investigators found that the last known communication in activity from Arakawa was February 11, when she visited a pharmacy, a pet store, and a farm market. Santa Fe County Sheriff if Aiden Mendoza said Friday. Hackman's pacemaker last shows signs of activity a week later that he had abnormal heart rhythm on February 18th, the day he likely died, Gerald said. Although there was no reliable way to determine the date and time when both died, all signs point to their deaths as coming a week apart, Gerald said. It's quite possible he was not aware she was deceased, Gerald said. Dr. Michael Baden, a former New York City medical examiner, said he believed Eve Hackman was severely impaired due to Alzheimer's disease. He's unable to deal with his wife's death in the last week of his life. You're talking about a very severe Alzheimer's disease that normal people would be in a nursing home or have a nurse. But she was taking care of him until she passed away, Baden said. The bodies were found a little over a week later. Hackman was found in the home's entryway. His death was tied to heart disease. He's with Alzheimer's disease. He's contributing. Arakawa was found in a bathroom. Authority is linked to death through hantavirus pulmonary syndrome, a rare but potentially fatal disease. Is spread by infected rodent droppings. Thyroid medication pills prescribed to Arakawa were found nearby and were listed as contributing to her death, as Charles said. Oh, so it might have been a combination of medication and hantavirus is typically he is reported in spring and summer, often due to exposure that occur when people are near mouse droppings in homes should a poorly ventilated area. This is the first confirmed case of hantavirus in New Mexico this year. Well, hantavirus is found throughout the world, with most cases in the U.S. have been found in western states. The virus can cause a severe and sometimes deadly lung infection, and symptoms can include coughing, shortness of breath, and tightness in the chest. So something to look out for, I guess. Jared said it was not known how quickly Arakawa died. When the couple was 3 dogs also was found dead in a crate in a bathroom closest near Arakawa, while 2 other dogs survived. The authority is initially misidentified the breed. Dogs do not get sick from hantavirus, said Aaron Phillip, a veteran with the New Mexico Health Department. In narcolepsy, he will be done on the dog. The sheriff considered this an open investigation until he finished checking into the cell phone data and received results of the dog's necropsy. Okay, so they're still investigating the dog's death. I'm guessing it probably just didn't get any food or water for the entire time. When Hackman and Arakawa were found, the bodies were decomposing with some mummification. A consequence of body type and climate in Santa Fe is especially dry air here at elevation of nearly 7,200 feet. Oliva said knew him should have be checking on him, and said Stuart Ashman and co-owner of. I'm running out. I'm actually running pretty late here. studios where they used to swap up stories. How much longer is this? Dr. B. Well, at any rate, I need to kind of move on here. You kind of get the idea of what's going on with that story. But seeing as this kind of helps me transition into those who have passed a little bit, we got the story of Dolly Parton's husband here. How Dolly Parton honored husband and Carl Dean after his death, and what to know about their many wonderful years together. And that's him right there in that video. There's very few photos of him actually out, on the internets. That's because he kept more of a private life than Dolly did. Carl Dean and Dolly Parton's husband of nearly 60 years passed away on Monday at the age of 82. Dolly Parton shared the statement on social media on Monday. He thanking people for their prayers and sympathy. One of Dolly Parton's biggest hits is Jolene, and was inspired by Carl Dean in the affections of a red-headed bank teller. So you want me to I'll read the statement here. Carl Dean, husband of Dolly Parton, passed away March 3rd in Nashville at the age of 82. He will be laid to rest in a private ceremony with immediate family attending. He was survived by his sibling Sandra and Donnie. Carl and I spent many wonderful years together. Your words can't do justice to the love we shared for 60 years. Thank you for your prayers and sympathy. The family has asked for privacy during this difficult time. I hope they got the privacy. I mean, they're reporting it on here, but this is I'm just covering what's been released already. So, he was a good man, and he had a good life, and he's been a good husband. So, they had a good life together. That's good. But so that's the story there. And unfortunately, we did lose another person here. I had to cover this one, of course. R.I.P. George Lowe, voice of Space Ghost. Lowe, who had suffered from health problems in recent years, was 67 years old. And he did the voice of Space Ghost from Space Ghost Coast to Coast. George Lowe, voice actor of the cult favorite Adult Swim series Space Ghost Coast to Coast, has died. A representative have confirmed in the AV Club. Friends reported Lowe, who had been suffering from illness for some time before his death on Sunday. He was 67 years old. George Lowe and his family has been grief-stricken and unable to respond regarding his passing on March 2nd. Well, I don't want to read all this bit. Anyway, he wasn't the original voice of Space Ghost. The original voice in the show, prior to him, was Gary Owens, who passed in 2015. But I suppose a lot of people would probably argue that George Lowe would be the one that they think of when they think of the voice of Space Ghost, though. Let me see here. found something I wanted to play. Oh, yeah. I found something I wanted to play here. Get started here. Pause that. Okay, put that up.
You are, sir?
I am Space Ghost Citizen Bruce.
And
Oh, and this is this is him. This is George Lowe, who dressed as Space Ghost, who's being interviewed on C-SPAN and on C-SPAN. So I think this just shows how much he loved doing the character.
what planet are you from?
I come from the Ghost Planet, aka Cartoon Network.
And what special powers do you have, if any?
I can become invisible, I can fly, and I bake one heck of an apple brown Betty.
And Space Ghost?
We're enjoying a laugh now.
Yes,
aren't
we
Bruce?
are. How do you serve humanity?
How do I serve humanity? Well, I usually prefer to serve humanity steaming hot, right out of the kitchen, because it's no good if it's cold.
Would you regard yourself as a superhero?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
How do
Think
you-
of me as Walter Mondale with super strength.
How do you compare yourself to your colleagues in the business, such as, for example, Superman or Batman?
Well, you know, Superman got that groin pull a couple of years ago. Very, very difficult, very painful. Spider-Man, you just don't want to shake hands with him because every time you go to, you know, a warm greeting, you get that handful of that glop, you know, that he sticks to things with. So that's unpleasant. He's an unpleasant person. Who else?
Do you have there are many. Do you have a secret identity?
My secret identity, yes. My real, I will share this with you, Citizen Bruce. Nobody else is listening?
Correct.
My real identity is Tad Ghostal. That's my secret identity, Tad Ghostal. But
Tad goes
Don't tell me.
Yeah.
And what
Oh,
does
don't tell me
Tad
one.
do for a living?
well, Tad used to work at the Gap. He works at the Gap, but on weekends he fights crime.
Well, Space Ghost, we don't want to keep you from your mission.
Not at all. I can stay another hour.
Thanks for stopping by Caspan.
It was a pleasure to be here on Caspan, and thank you for having me. Citizen Bruce. And
But yeah, you can just see how much you love that character. Hey, hello, Purple. Yeah. Well, let's try. I think that. Make sure I got everybody here. All right, that covers everyone who has passed. Don't worry about it. I'm probably going to be running late. Okay, so let's see what the poll has to say here. And overwhelmingly, we've got the Parting Glass at 50% for our song to honor those who have passed. So, to George Lowe, Dolly Parton's husband, and well, I guess we'll go and say goodbye to Gene Hackman and his wife, and their poor dog once again as well. Of all the money that ever I had, I spent it in good company, and all the harm I ever done, alas, it was to none but me, and all I've done for want of wit, to memory now I can't recall. So fill to me the parting glass. Good night and joy be to you all. So fill to me the parting glass, and drink a health whatever befall, and gently rise and softly call. Good night and joy be to you all. Of all the comrades that e'er I had, they're sorry for my going away. And all the sweethearts that e'er I had, they'd wish me one more day to stay. But since it fell unto my lot that I should rise and you should not, I gently rise and softly call. Good night and joy be to you all. A man may drink and not be drunk. A man may fight and not be slain. A man may court a pretty girl and perhaps be welcomed back again. But since it has so ought to be, by a time to rise and a time to fall, come fill to me the parting glass. Good night and joy be with you all. Good night and joy be with you all. Yes. Goodbye, hey Cholos, we've lost. But I think we need to bring the tempo back up here and get some energy going and with a better song. Come on, give us a good one here. Me and my shadow. Oh, we're gonna have to do better than that. Me and my shadow strolling down the avenue. Me and my shadow, not a soul to trail of troubles to. And when it's 12 o'clock, we climb the stairs. We never knock, 'cause no one's there. Just me and my shadow, all alone and feeling blue. But I'm not all alone. You're here with me. Oh, and what do we have here? It's a Molly. And a Molly here. That means we gotta play a video or something. What do we get here? This one will work. Come on. Okay. Molly. And of course, those good doggies get their pets. Remember to always pet your doggo. And your kitties too. Unless they don't want you to be petting them. Let's get into a better segment here. So we have Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends. And it ran from 2004 to 2009, spanning 6 seasons, and was created by Craig McCracken. This guy, which is actually a pretty much younger photo than what he is right now, who also created the Powerpuff Girls series. Oop, that's the wrong frame. I'll have to get back to that. In the world of the Fosters, oh no, actually that was the right frame. I'm just all screwed up, aren't In the world of Foster's, imaginary friends become real and tangible as soon as those children imagine them, which is what it's being depicted here. Your Goo, one of the later characters in the series, he has an overactive imagination, imagines blue as orange. Well, you know, blue and orange. We need to get a purple one in there, don't you think? In purple? The show will primarily follow the imaginary friend named Blue, spelled Bloo, and Mac. Mac's mother, her thing, Mac is getting too old for imaginary friends, and so he has to give Blue up. He brings Blue to Foster's home for imaginary friends, a place that adopts out imaginary friends' new kids. Since Mac came back to see Blue again, and it's agreed that Blue can stay at Foster's without being adopted out, so long as Mac visits every day. Thus, the series begins. At Foster's, oh, and this is a little bit of concept art here of Blue. Kind of looks like a bit more of a ghost in some of the early designs I see. At Foster's, Blue is joined by several other imaginary friends who make up the main supporting cast. Wilt, the constantly apologetic to a fault, tall red imaginary friend, who was created because his creator loved basketball, but wasn't very good at it. And you can see him in his earlier state before he lost his arm and messed up his eye. Wilt helped him become unbeatable. His current state of having a missing arm and damaged eye. He is stitches on his face. This was a result of him being crushed under another imaginary friend and saving the life of his creator during a basketball game. We can see his creator there, almost being crushed, and him getting crushed, and Wilt getting crushed in his place. Distraught from the loss of the game, Wilt ran away. Coco, a bird, airplane, plant thing who can only say her own name. Only a handful of characters can understand what she's saying, too. Her trading card in the Leapster game reveals her creator was a girl who crashed on a desert island. Nothing is known of the girl's fate. Coco was discovered by two scientists named Douglas and Adams. These two, who look like adult versions of Dexter and Mandar from Dexter's Laboratory. You can a little comparison here. So we have our two characters here. Kind of switch between here. Yeah, you can see how they basically look like adult versions. It was named after, of course, they're named a play on Douglas Adams, who wrote Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Eduardo, a large purple hairy creature with a tail, large pointed teeth, and large horns, which makes him look fierce. However, he's also the most gentle of the group. Eduardo was created by a girl who was scared off the neighborhood bullies. And here's him in a flashback when he was first created. She grew up to become a police officer, reuniting with his creator there. His personality comes from his creator's need for him to care for her little brother. and do girly things with her. She learned to be brave from him and ended up facing her fears and standing up to the bullies after realizing our water wouldn't defend himself. Uh, the backstory of the trio comes from season 4, episodes 12 and 13, in making up the television movie Good Will Hunting. Frances, aka Frankie Foster, the 22-year-old granddaughter of Madame Foster, she's left having to do almost all the work around the house, the home for her imaginary friends. Despite their age difference, and she and Mac were good friends, and Mac had a secret crush on her. Behind the scenes information from the creator states Frankie he had an imaginary friend when she was little, but due to having to grow up with Mr. Harriman, and her father forced her to abandon her imaginary friend. This is the reason she started working at Foster's, in hopes of meeting her imaginary friend again. The voice actor for Frankie also voiced a number of other characters on the show, including Mac's mother. Her full name, Frances, spelled with an I, is actually the masculine version of the name, with the feminine version using an E instead of an I. You see on her driver's license, Frances Foster, and get a little bit of some details on her as well. Her birthday. You can't really see it with the way the animation is, but it states on here that she has green eyes. GRN there. Oh, and the state logo on the driver's license is actually the Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends logo. Martha, aka Madame Foster, a short, elderly lady with an eccentric, kooky personality, who founded Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends. Unlike many other, she never abandoned her imaginary friend, Mr. Harriman, who helps her run Foster along with her granddaughter, Frankie. She sees these similar qualities in Mac, which is why she agrees to allow Blue to stay at her home without being adopted out, so long as Mac continues to visit. Harriman, a tall, stern gray rabbit wearing a suit, top hat, and monocle, well, he is Foster's imaginary friend, who she calls her Funny Bunny. Being a stickler for the rules, he seems to be very much in contrast to Madame Foster's carefree personality. He is shown to be a hypocrite at times, breaking rules to achieve certain goals. And that covers our main cast for the show. I think it's a good show. It's worth watching, though I don't particularly like the overly simplistic artwork for it. It's kind of a you saw a lot of this kind of artwork during Cartoon Network's run around that time, and it's not quite CalArts level bad. It was it was just kind of a precursor to that. I would have preferred a much more detailed style, and kind of like what we see from the Fusion Falls characters in this shot here. That may very well be. Well, break up another segment here. Get a little bit. Oh yeah, that's what you want. Whiskey going down the wrong pipe. It always feels, so like burning. At any rate, see what the wheel has to say. Yeah. Beautiful Dreamer. Let's see if I can actually sing it now that I've choked myself on alcohol. Beautiful dreamer, wake unto me. Starlight and dewdrop are waiting for thee. Sounds of the rude world heard in the day, lulled by the moonlight, have all passed away. Beautiful dreamer, queen of my song, list while I woo thee with soft melody. Gone are the cares of life's busy throng. Beautiful dreamer, awake unto me. Beautiful dreamer, awake unto me. Beautiful dreamer, out on the sea, mermaids are chanting the wild lorry. Over the streamlet, vapors are born, waiting to fade at the bright coming morn. Beautiful dreamer, beam on my heart, and as the moon on the streamlet and sea, then will all clouds of sorrow depart. Beautiful dreamer, awake unto me. Beautiful dreamer, awake unto me. Not bad considering I was feeling I was going to cough off throughout the entire song. Okay. Next up, we have a show that I actually binged watched this past week so I could see it for this show. Get things up here. And this turned out to be a really good series. Needs to watch. If you haven't seen this, I definitely have to recommend it. And I do some midnight showings on Thursday. We might have to actually watch this on Thursday sometime. But the show is Happy. Hello, Jasper. Okay. Happy is a black comedy action series. He's based on a graphic novel. Well, that's a graphic novel cover written by Grant Morrison and art by Derek Robertson. It appeared in 2017 and received a second season and premiering in 2019. That's the opening scene. We see right there where he imagines himself kind of unaliving himself, and he starts dancing with blood gushing out of his head. It's all these strippers that come out of the walls. So that's basically the scene that sets the entire tone for the first season. The first season is about a cop turned hitman who, after a heart attack and getting shot, and started seeing his estranged daughter's imaginary friend and named Happy. That's Happy right there. Which was voiced by Patton Oswalt, which is pretty surprising that he would do such a good job about voicing an annoying flying unicorn and blue horse thing. His daughter was kidnapped by a crazy guy dressed as a very bad Santa. We see more of the kidnapping in the series than we do in the graphic novel. Well, and they had to go and race swap up Haley. So we can see a comparison here of Haley from the series and Haley from the show. I'm generally against race swapping or sex swapping as well. Well, because you kind of create an uphill battle for your already established fan base to accept the character all over again. That's not to say you can't do it. You can make it work. Me coming in from the perspective of the series first, it was less of an impact. So obviously, a lot of people who would be coming in from the series first would also have that same kind of view. And the girl that got to play Haley did a fine job. So it's not like she did a terrible job at it either. It's just I kind of wish they'd knock this kind of stuff off. And they do a lot too. Though there are many other characters who kind of look pretty close to their comic book counterparts. We see Nick Sachs next here, and one of the hookers. There's this whole scene plays out pretty close to the way it played out in the comic, like in the series too. So there we have the hooker from the comic there, and basically the same scene. And Nick, other than he's wearing a hat, you can kind of see the similarities in the character. And I much prefer when they try and get the characters to look similar to the source material like this. It just kind of adds more to it, and just makes it feel like you're bringing that to life. And you fail to do that when you race in sex swap characters. This is a bit of a spoiler for the graphic novel, maybe a bit, but it seems to be implied that Nick Sachs dies at the end of the graphic novel. Well, in the series, he survives, and Happy joins him permanently for more misadventure leading to the second season. They used up all of the source material in the first season, so there was only one graphic novel one shot, and the entire story of the graphic novel is basically the first season. So they had to make up a completely new story for the second season, which usually when they do that, the storytelling has a noticeable drop in quality. But actually, they actually pulled it off pretty well. They lean more into supernatural elements in the second season. Nick Sachs, trying to remain sober-ish for his daughter's sake, he's trying to be in her life now, and that he knows she exists, where he didn't even know she existed before. Behaves more like everyone's drunk uncle for most of the season. Haley has been acting out due to PTSD from her kidnapping. Not really surprising. She would have PTSD from her kidnapping and start acting out, which is pretty realistic for over the top comedy like this. Uh, he's told that the one who kidnapped her was the child entertainer, Sunny Shine, who she was at one of Sunny's live shows when she was kidnapped, by the way. Who serves as a main antagonist for the second season. With his manufactured War on Easter, it's pretty clear your play on the annual manufactured War on Christmas. There is a supernatural force called Orcus, the name of an underworld god from Etruscan and Roman mythology. He's seemingly pulling the strings in this season, and this character is called Mr. Blue, and he's possessed by a Orcus throughout the season. Orcus states that Happy is like him, well, when they encounter each other, but instead of death, and then kind of trails off, and after he says that, Happy starts releasing all these hearts from his eyes, and this causes everybody in the room to start going into and having an orgy. I really could have done without seeing the fat black man in his rear end and during that orgy scene, but that's the way this show goes. Near the end of the season, we encounter a group stating that evil comes from the world being polluted by old gods, hanging onto shreds of belief. There seems to be an implication in that gods are just a form of imaginary friend. And we actually have Happy meeting a god or the god, whatever, who actually states that he is an imaginary friend, but instead of just being a single person's imaginary friend, he's collectively. Which I think is kind of a neat perspective to take for a supernatural entity, especially when you're introducing imaginary friends that seem to be existing in real life, in reality, in some fashion. There is no third season, unfortunately. If they did a third season, I would imagine it probably would have been focusing on this group and this notion of remnants of ancient god touring around, and who have likely served. Probably be the pilot, the plot of the third season. Well, I guess we'll end it with Nick Sax's Heaven, where boobs are filled with the finest of bourbon. Yeah, that's basically how it works in this show. It seems that their existence is dependent on at least somebody believing they exist. Moving right along. So, yeah, we're almost to the trivia, which is a highlight for this show, I guess. Yeah, I love you truly. I need to edit that. I love you truly, truly, dear. Life with its sorrow, life with its tear, fade into dreams when I have you near. For I love you truly, truly, dear. Our love, 'tis something to feel your kind hand. Ah, yes, 'tis something by your side to stand. Gone is the sorrow, gone doubt and fear, for you love me truly, truly, dear. Well, that one's kind of a short one. So let's give it another spin. Putting on the Ritz, that's a good one. Okay. Have you seen the well-to-do up on Lexington Avenue on the famous thoroughfare with their noses in the air? High hats and narrow collars, wide spats of $15, spending every dime for a wonderful time. If you're blue and you don't know where to go to, why don't you go where Harlem flits? Putting on the Ritz, spangled downs upon the devy of high proud from down the levee, all misfits. Putting on the Ritz, that's where each and every Lulu Belle goes. Every Thursday evening with her swell bows, rum and elbows, come with me and we'll attend their jubilee and see them spend their last 2 bits. Putting on the Ritz, if you're blue and you don't know where to go to, why don't you go where Harlem flits? Putting on the Ritz, spangled downs upon the devy of highbrows from down the levee, all misfits. Putting on the Ritz, that's where each and every Lulu Belle goes. Every Thursday evening with her swell bows, rum and elbows, come with me and we'll attend their jubilee and see them spend their last 2 bits. Putting on the Ritz, come with me and we'll attend their jubilee and see them spend their last 2 bits. Putting on the Ritz. Putting on the Ritz. Yeah, okay, putting on the Ritz. Now, for our next segment, which I had pulled up and I had to unpull up. So I'm pulling it back up again. So there. And tonight's trivia is if. Oh, yes. I'm not sure you can still do this or not, but hold on. I'm going to bring this back down for a second. Granny, if you're still out there and watching, I'm going to send you a link if you want to come in for and say something about this movie. If not, it's okay. Okay, back to the story here. All right, If, directed by John Krasinski, he described the movie as a live-action Pixar movie. Despite appearing 12 or 13 years old in the movie, I believe she was stated to be 12 years old specifically. Callie Fleming was 17 years old at the time of release. So she was actually about 16, 17 in filming it. If is one of the last movies Louis Gossett Jr. completed before his death. He played the voice of Lewis. That's Lewis there, who lived in a retirement in village in Coney Island. Louis Gossett Jr. Was born in Coney Island, so it's kind of a nice full circle between his life and the character there. And the character is named Lewis. Probably they did that in honor of him. In loving memory of our friend and Louis Gossett Jr., which is near the end in credits, or was it being the beginning of it? Christopher Maloney, who previously appeared in the series Happy, who played Nick Sachs. We just covered that. In this show, as him and as Nick Sachs there, but in If, he voices the character of Cosmo, the detective, which is kind of fitting, seeing a little overlap there between the show here. Memory Lane Retirement, the place where the forgotten imaginary friends live, is loosely inspired by Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends, which I saw this movie in the hospital, or at least part of it, when I was in the hospital, and I kind of caught it halfway. Either just as they were exploring the retirement home, and honestly, my first thought was that this was actually a live-action movie of Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends, and I just didn't. I was trying to figure out when it was made. But now I realize it was wasn't that. At Memory Lane, similar to the titular home in Foster's Home, live all kinds of imaginary friends that previously have lost their owners because as they've grown up or they were left there to find another child to play with. In addition, and Steve Carell character is an imaginary friend named Blue. Anyway, here's a few shots of the retirement home, and seeing as we were just looking at Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends, you can kind of see the parallels there. And there's a character named Blue, but it's spelled Blue, kind of like blue, and obviously is a big purple monster because is a child who imagined it was colorblind, and kind of reminds me a bit of Eduardo too, with the design being a big purple hairy monster thing. When B he visits her father in the hospital after her surgery, the bouquet of purple flowers across from his bed. It has two large white flowers in it. Apparently, this was intended to make it look sort of like Blue, the big purple little guy. I don't know. I think I guess that's what they were trying to go for, but it seems like a bit of a stretch to me. The movie on the TV that a grandmother was watching is Harvey from 1950. About a man in with an imaginary friend into a 6-foot-tall rabbit. I wonder if there's some connection with that and Harry Man from Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends too. Callan and B's clothes get more colorful as the film progresses, or at least B's does. I took a few snapshots to kind of highlight how their clothes change and get brighter as they go. So it was earlier in the film when they first meet up. Later on, about midway through, as she's working for the retirement home, trying to match imaginary friends with new kids, which wasn't going very well. And her final outfit for the last, I'd say, third of the movie. You can see it's this bright striped thing. And this is just a little bit of a tidbit. I didn't want to get into too many spoilers for this movie, but this particular scene has a little bit of foreshadowing. You'll understand and if you watch the movie, which I definitely recommend and you go do if you haven't seen it yet. So, a couple more songs. We'll do one more song here, and then we'll move on to the. There's a hole in the bucket. All right. There's a hole in the bucket, dear Liza, dear Liza. There's a hole in the bucket, dear Liza. A hole. Then patch it, dear Henry, dear Henry, dear Henry. Then patch it, dear Henry. Then patch up the hole. With what shall I patch it, dear Liza, dear Liza? With what shall I patch it, dear Liza? With what? With straw, dear Henry, dear Henry, dear Henry. With straw, dear Henry, dear Henry. With straw. The straw is too long, dear Liza, dear Liza. The straw is too long, dear Liza, too long. Then cut it, dear Henry, dear Henry, dear Henry. Then cut it, dear Henry, dear Henry, cut it. With what shall I cut it, dear Liza, dear Liza? With what shall I cut it, dear Liza? With what? A knife, dear Henry, dear Henry, dear Henry. A knife, dear Henry, dear Henry. A knife. The knife is too dull, dear Liza, dear Liza. The knife is too dull, dear Liza, too dull. Then sharpen it, dear Henry, dear Henry, dear Henry. Then sharpen it, dear Henry, dear Henry. Sharpen it. With what shall I sharpen it, dear Liza, dear Liza? With what shall I sharpen it, dear Liza? With what? A stone, dear Henry, dear Henry, dear Henry. A stone, dear Henry, dear Henry. A stone. The stone is too dry, dear Liza, dear Liza. The stone is too dry, dear Liza, too dry. Then wet it, dear Henry, dear Henry, dear Henry. Then wet it, dear Henry, dear Henry. Wet it. With what shall I wet it, dear Liza, dear Liza? With what shall I wet it, dear Liza? With what? With water, dear Henry, dear Henry, dear Henry. With water, dear Henry, dear Henry. With water. With what shall I fetch it, dear Liza, dear Liza? With what shall I fetch it, dear Liza? With what? With a bucket, dear Henry, dear Henry, dear Henry. With a bucket, dear Henry, dear Henry. A bucket. But there's a hole in the bucket, dear Liza, dear Liza. There's a hole in the bucket, dear Liza. A hole. But not to worry. He peed on a stone, sharpened his knife, and he cut his straw and patched his bucket. But the water never quite tasted the same again. So, let's get into a little bit of reading. A little bit of light reading with H.G. Wells' The Time Machine. I usually like to do a little bit of Fortunately, I didn't have time to review this chapter beforehand, so I'm kind of doing this as a cold reading. So I'll probably flub up more than usual. H.G. Wells' The Time Machine, Chapter 2, The Story Begins. I told some of you last Thursday, well, Sunday for us, and so the principle of the time machine and showed you that actual thing in itself, complete in the workshop. There it is now, a little travel worn, truly, and one of the ivory bars is cracked, and the brass has rail bent. but the rest of it sound enough. I expected to finish it on Friday, but on Friday, when the putting in together was nearly done, I found that one of the nickel bars was exactly 1 inch too short. And this is I had to get it remade. So the thing was not complete until this morning. It was at 10 o'clock today a, that at the first of all time machines began in its career. I gave it a last tap and tried all the screws again and put on more drop one more drop of oil on the quartz rod and sat itself in the saddle. I suppose I I suppose I use suicide who holds a pilot to his skull will feel as much the same in wonder what will come next as I felt then. I suppose the starting lever in one hand and then the stopping one in the other pressed as the first and almost immediately the second. I seemed to reel and I felt a nightmare sensation of falling and looking around. I saw the laboratory exactly as before. Had anything happened? For a moment, I suspected that my intellect had tricked me. Then I noticed the clock. A moment before, as it seemed, it had stood at a minute or so past 10. Now it was nearly half past 3. I drew a breath and set my teeth gripping the starting lever with both hands and went off with a thud. The laboratory got hazy and went dark. Like Mrs. Watchet came in and walked, apparently without seeing me, towards the garden door. I suppose it took her a minute or so to traverse the place, but to me she seemed to shoot across the room like a rocket. I pressed this lever over to its extreme position. The night it came in like the turning out of a lamp. In another moment it came in tomorrow. The laboratory grew faint and hazy, then fainter and ever fainter. Tomorrow night it came in black. Then day again, night again, day again, faster and faster still, and editing Ebby murmur filled my ear as in a stream dumb confusedness as descended it on my mind. I am afraid I cannot convey the particular sensations of time traveling, and they are extensively unpleasant. There is a feeling exactly like that one has upon a switchback, like of a helpless, this headlong notion. And I felt the same horrible anticipation too of an imminent smash as I put on and paid. A night it followed daylight, like the flapping of a black wing, and the dim suggestion of the laboratory seemed presently to fall away from me, and I saw the sun hopping swiftly across the sky, leaping in its every minute, and every minute marking a day. I suppose the laboratory had been destroyed, and I had come into the open air, or I had a dim impression of scaffolding, but I was already going too fast to be conscious of any moving things. It was the slowest snail that ever crawled dashed by too fast for me. The twinkling succession of darkness and light, it was extensively painful to the eye. Then, in the intermittent darkness, as I saw the moon spinning swiftly through her quarters from new to full, and had faint glimpses of the circling stars. Presently, as I went on, still gaining velocity, the palpitation of night and day emerged into one continuous grayness. The sky took on a wonderful deepness of blue, a splendid luminous color like that of early twilight. The jerking sun became a streak of fire, a bright a, a arc in space, the moon in fainter, fluctuating band, and I could see nothing of the stars, save now and then in a brighter circle flickering in the blue. The landscape it was misty and vague. I was still on the hillside upon on which this house now stands, and the shoulder rose above my gray and dim, above me gray and dim. And I saw trees growing and changing like puffs of vapor, now brown, now green, and they grew, spread, shriveled, shivered, and passed away. I saw huge buildings rise up faint and fair, and pass like dreams. The whole surface of the earth seemed changed, melting and flowing under my eyes. The little hand was upon the dial that registered my speed rate used to run and faster and faster. Presently, I noticed that the sun belt sway up and down from solstice to solstice. In a minute or less, as that consequently may pay was over a year a minute, and minute by minute, and the white snow flashed across the world and vanished, and was followed by the bright, brief green of spring. The unpleasant sensations of the start were less pungent now. They merged at last into a kind of hysterical exhilaration, and I remarked indeed a clumsy swaying of the machine, for which I was unable to account. But my mind was too confused to attend to it. So with a kind madness growing upon me, I flung myself into futurity. At first, the scarce thought out of stopping, scarce thought out of anything but not these new sensations. But presently, a fresh series of impressions grew up in my mind, a certain curiosity, and there within a certain dread, until at last they took complete possession of me. What strange development of humanity! What wonderful advances upon our rudimentary civilization! I thought, might it not appear when I came to look nearly into the dim and elusive world? Well, that ray fluctuated before my eyes. I saw great and splendid architecture rising about me, more massive than any buildings of our own time, and yet, as it seemed, built of glimmer and mist. Yes, I saw a richer green flow up the hillside and remain in there without any wintry intermission. Even though, even through the veil of my confusion, and the earth seemed very fair, and so my mind came around to the business of stopping. The particular lay in the possibility of me finding some substance in the space within which I or the machine occupied. So long as I travel at a high velocity through time, this scarcely mattered. I was, so to speak, attenuated. It was slipping like a vapor through the interstices of intervening substances, but to come to a stop up involve the jamming of myself, molecule by molecule, into whatever lay in my way, meant bringing my atom into such intimate contact with those of the obstacle that had a profound chemical reaction and possibly a far-reaching explosion would result. The blow myself and my apparatus is out of all possible dimensions and into the unknown. This possibility he had occurred to me again and again, and while I was making the machine, but then I had cheerfully accepted it as an unavoidable risk. One of the risks a man has got to take. Now the risk was inevitable. Well, I no longer saw it in the same cheerful light. The fact is that insensible the absolute strangeness of everything, in the sickly, the jarring swaying of the machine, and above all the feeling of prolonged falling, had absolutely upset my nerve. I told myself that I could never stop, and with again as to petulance, and so result, I'll have to stop forthwith, like an impatient fool. I hugged over the lever, and incontinently the thing went reeling over, and I was flung headlong through the air. There was no sound of a clap of thunder in my ear, as I may have been stunned for a moment. Pitiless hail was hissing around on me, and I was sitting in soft turf in front of the overset machine. Everything still seemed grey, but presently I remarked that the confusion in my ears was gone. I looked around me. I was on what seemed to be a little lawn in a garden, surrounded by rhododendrons and bushes. And then I noticed that their mauve and purple blossom were dropping in a shower or under the beating of the hailstones. The rebounding, dancing hail hung in a cloud out over the machine. I drove along on the ground like smoke. In a moment, and I was wet to the skin. Fine hospitality, said I, to a man who has traveled innumerable years to see you. Presently, I thought, what a fool I was to get wet. I stood up and looked around me. A colossal little figure carved apparently in some white stone, looming indistinctly beyond the rhododendron and through the hazy downpour. But all else of the world was invisible. My sensation could be hard to describe. As the column of hail grew thinner, I saw the white figure more distinctly. It was very large, which for a silver birch tree he touched its shoulder. It was a white marble in shape, something like a winged sphinx, but the wings, instead of being carried vertically at the sides, were spread so that it seemed to hover. The pedestal, it appears to me, was a bronze, and was thick with verdigris, as it changed. That the face was towards me, and Eightless, his eyes seemed to watch me. There was a faint shadow of a smile on the lips. It was generally a weather-worn, and that imparted an unpleasant suggestion of disease. I stood looking at it for a little space. It's half a minute, perhaps, or half an hour. It seemed to advance and to recede as the hail drove before, or it denser or thinner. At last, I tore my eyes from it for a moment and saw that the hail curtain had worn and threadbare, and that the sky was lighting with the promise of the sun. I looked up again, and excuse me, at the crouching white shape, and the full temperature of my voyage came suddenly upon me. What might appear when the hazy curtain was altogether withdrawn might not have happened to men. What if cruelty had grown into a common passion? What if in this interval all the race had lost its and manliness and had developed into something inhuman, unsymptomatic, unsympathetic, and overwhelmingly powerful? I might seem some old world savage animal, only the more dreadful and disgusting for our common likeness. A foul creature to be incontinently slain. Alright, I saw over a vast shape, huge buildings with intricate parapets and some tall columns, with a wooded hillside dimly creeping in upon on me through the lessening storm. I was seized with a panic fear. I turned frantically to the time machine and strove hard to readjust it. As I did, it saw the shafts of the sun and smote through the thunderstorm. The rain downpour was swept up the side and vanished, just like the trailing garments of a ghost. Above me, in the intense blue of the summer sky, some faint brown shreds of cloud whirled into the nothingness. The great building above me stood out clear and distinct, shining with the wet of the thunderstorm, and picked out in white by the unmelted hailstones piled along their courses. I felt naked in a strange world. I felt as perhaps a bird may feel in the clear air, knowing that a hawk wing above and will swoop. My fear grew to frenzy. He took a breathing space. He set at my teeth, and again and grappled fiercely, wrist and knee with the machine. It gave under my desperate onset and turned over. It struck my chin violently. One hand on the saddle, while the other on the lever. I stood panting heavily in an attitude to mount once again. But with this recovery of a prompt retreat, my courage recovered. I looked more curiously and less fearfully at that at this world of the remote future. In a circular opening high up in the wall of the nearer house, I saw a group of figures clad in rich, soft robes. They had seen me. Their faces were directed toward me. Then I heard voices approaching me, coming through the bushes and by the white sphinx, where they had heads and shoulders of men running. One of these emerged into a pathway leading straight to the little lawn upon which I stood with my machine. He was a slight creature, perhaps 4 feet tall, clad in a purple tunic, girdled at the waist with a leather belt, sandals, or buskins. I could not clearly distinguish which. Were on his feet, heat. His legs were bare to the knees. His head it was bare. Noticing that, I noticed for the first time how warm the air was. Excuse me. He struck me as being a very beautiful and graceful creature, but indescribably frail. His flushed face reminded me of the more beautiful kind of uh, consummate, consumptive of that hectic beauty of which we used to hear so much. At the sight of him, I suddenly regained confidence. I took my hands from the machine. In another moment, we were standing face to face. I and this fragile thing, out of futurity. He came straight up to me and laughed into my eyes. The absence from his bearing of any sign of fear struck me at once. Then he turned to the two others who were following him and spoke to them in a strange and very sweet and liquid tongue. There were others coming, and presently a little group of perhaps 8 or 10 of these exquisite creatures were about me. One of them addressed me. It came into my head, oddly enough, that my voice was too harsh and deep for them. So he shook my head and pointed into my ears, shook it again. He came a step forward, hesitated, and then touched my head, and then I felt other soft little tentacles upon on my back and shoulders, as they wanted to make sure I was real. Well, there was nothing in this at all alarming. Indeed, there was something in these pretty little people that inspired confidence, a graceful gentleness, and a certain childlike ease. And besides, they looked so frail, that I could fancy myself flinging the whole dozen of them above of like 9 pins. But I made a sudden in motion to warn them, and when I saw their little pink hands feeling at the time machine. Happily, then, and when it was not too late, I thought out of a danger I had hitherto forgotten. In reaching over the bars of the machine, and I unscrewed the little levers that would set it in motion and put them in my pocket. Then I turned again to see what I could do in the way of communication. And then, in looking more nearly into the future, as I saw some further peculiarities used in their dress in China type of prettiness. Their hair, which was uniformly curly, came into a sharp end at the neck and cheek. There was not the faintest suggestion of it on the face, and their ears were singularly minute. Their mouths were small, all with bright red rather than in lips. Perhaps in the little chin ran to a point. The eyes were large and mild, and this may seem egotism on my part. I fancied even in that there was a certain lack of the interest I might have expected in them, as they made no effort to communicate with me, but simply stood around on me, smiling and speaking soft, cooing notes to each other. I began the conversation. I pointed into the time machine and to myself, then hesitating for a moment into how to express time. I pointed to the sun, and at once I entity, pretty little figure, quaintly pretty little figure, here in chick, red and purple and white. He followed my gesture, and then astonished me by imitating the sound of thunder. For a moment, I was staggered, though the import to if his gesture was plain enough. If the question had come into my mind, and abruptly, were these creatures fools? You may hardly understand and how it took me. You see, I had always anticipated that the people of the eight of the year 800 and 2000 and odd would be incredibly in front of us in knowledge, or everything. Then one of them suddenly asked me a question that showed him to be on the intellectual level of one of our 5-year-old children. Asked me, in fact, if I had come from in the sun and in a thunderstorm. It let loose the judgment I had suspended upon on their clothes, their frail, light limbs, and very agile features. I flew with disappointment, and it rushed across my mind. For a moment, I felt that I had built the time machine in vain. I nodded, pointing to the sun, and gave them such a vivid rendering of a thunderclap as startled them. They all withdrew a pace or so and bowed. Then came one laughing towards me, carrying a chain of beautiful flowers. It was altogether new to me, and put it about my neck. The idea was received with melodious applause, and presently they were all running to and fro for flowers, laughingly flinging them upon me until I was almost smothered with blossom. You who have never seen the light, I can scarcely imagine what delicate and wonderful little flower countless years of culture had created. Then someone suggested that their played anything and should be exhibited in the nearest building. And so I was led past the sphinx of white marble, which had seemed to watch me all the while with a smile at my astonishment, towards a vast gray edifice, a fretted stone. And as I went with them, in the memory of my confident anticipation of a profoundly grave and intellectual prosperity, he came with irresistible merriment into my mind. The building had a huge entry and was altogether of colossal dimensions. I was naturally most occupied with the growing crowd of little people, and with the big open portal that yawned before me, shadowy and mysterious. A general impression of the world I saw over their heads was a tangled way of beautiful bushes and flowers. It was a long, neglected, and yet weedless garden. I saw a number of tall spikes of strange flowers, measuring a foot, perhaps across the spread of the waxen petals, as they grew scattered as if wild among the variegated shrubs. But, as I say, I did not examine them closely at this time. The time machine was left deserted on the turf among the rhododendrons. The arch of the doorway was richly carved, but naturally I did not observe the carving very narrowly, though I fancy I saw suggestions of old fauna from the scene and decoration as I passed through, and it struck me that they were very badly broken and weather-worn. Several more brightly clad people met me in the doorway, and so we entered. Dressed in dingy 19th century garments, and looking grotesque enough, garland ended with flowers, and surrounded by an eddying mass of bright, soft colored robes and shining white limbs, and melodious, melodian swirl of laughter and laughing speech. The bright door lay open into uh, and portently a great hall hung with brown, and the roof was in shadow, and the window was particularly glazed with color or glass, and particularly unglazed, amidst a tempered light. Yet the floor was made up of huge blocks of some very hard white metal, and not plate, and nor slabs, blocks. And it was so much worn, and as I judged by the going to and fro of past generations, as to be deeply channeled along the more frequented ways, traversed to the length were innumerable old tables, was made of slabs of polished stone, raised perhaps a foot from the floor, and upon on those were heaps of fruits. Some of them I recognize as a kind of a hypertrophied raspberry and orange, but for the most part they were strange. Between the tables was scattered a great number of cushions. Upon on those, as my conductor seated themselves, singing for me to do likewise. Is with a pretty absence of ceremony. They began to eat the fruit with their hands, flinging peel and stalks and so forth into their round and opening in the sides of the tables. I was not loath to follow their example, for I felt thirsty and hungry, as I did, and so I surveyed the hall at my leisure. And perhaps the thing that struck me the most was its dilapidated look. This stained glass window, which displayed only a geometrical pattern and were broken in many places, and the curtains that hung across the lower end were thick with dust. And it caught my eye that at the corner of the marble table near me was fractured. Nevertheless, the general effect was extremely rich and picturesque. These were perhaps a couple of hundred people dining in the hall, and most of them, seated as near to me as they could come, were watching me with interest. Their little eyes shining over the fruit they were eating. All were clad in the same soft yet strong silky material. Fruit by the by was all their diet. These people, of the remote future, were strict vegetarians, and while I was with them, in spite of some carnal cravings, I had to be fruit for forgiverous is also frugivorous of also. Indeed, he found afterwards that horses, cattle, sheep, dogs, had followed all the the Ichthyosaurus into extinction. Ichthyosaurus into extinction. But the fruits were very delightful. One in particular that seemed to be in season and all the time was there, a flowery thing in a three-sided husk was especially good. I had in my staple a lot first, so I was puzzled by all these strange fruits and by the strange flowers I saw. But later I began to perceive they're important. They're important, okay. However, I am telling you of my fruit dinner here in the distant future now. So soon as my appetite it was a little checked, I determined to make a resolute attempt to learn and speak each of these new men of mine. Clearly, that was the next thing to do. The fruit it seemed the convenient thing to begin upon, and holding one of these up, I began a series of interrogative sounds and gestures. I had some considerable difficulty in conveying my meaning at first. My effort met with a stare of surprise or inextinguishable laughter. But presently, a fair-haired little creature seemed to grasp my intention and repeated it a name. They had to chatter and explain the business of this at great length to each other. In my first attempts to make the exquisite yet little sounds of their language caused an immense amount of amusement. However, I felt like a schoolmaster who missed its children and persisted, and presently I had a score of noun and substantive of at least at my command. Then I got to demonstrative of pronouns, and even the verb to eat, but it was slow work, and the little people soon tired and wanted to get it away from my interrogations. So I determined, rather of necessity, to let them give their lesson in little doses, as when they felt inclined. In very little doses, I found they were before long, for I never met people more indolent or more chastely fatigued. A queer thing I soon discovered about my little hosts, and that is their lack of interest. They would come to me with eager cries of astonishment, and like children, but like children, they would soon stop examining me and wander away after some other toy. The dinner and my conversation beginning ended, and I noted for the first time that almost all of those who had surrounded me at first were gone. It is odd, too, how speedily I came to disregard these little people. I went in and out through the portal into the sunlit world again, and as soon as my hunger was satisfied, I was continually meeting more of these men and of the future who would follow me a little distance and chatter and laugh about me, and having smiled and gesticulated in a friendly way, leave me again into my own devices. The calm of evening was upon on the world as I emerged from the great hall on the scene was lit by the warm glow of the setting sun. At first things were very confusing, and everything was so entire, er, entirely different from the world I had known. Even the flowers, the big building I had left was situated on the slope of a broad river or valley, but the thing had it shifted perhaps it's a mile from the present position, or is all to mount onto the summit of a crest, perhaps a mile and a half away from in which I could get a wider view of this our planet in the year 802,701 in AD. For that, I should explain what the date the little dials of my machine recorded. As I walked, I was watched for every impression that could possibly help to explain in the condition of ruinous splendor in which I found on the world. For ruinous as it was, a little way up the hill, for instance, was a great heap of granite bound together by masses of aluminum. A vast labyrinth into precipitate walls and crumbled old heaps. Mixed which were thick heaps of very beautiful pagoda-like plants, and nestled possibly by wonderfully tinted with the brown and above of the leaves, and incapable of stinging, and yet was evidently the relic remains of some vast structure, or to what end built I could not determine. It was here that I was destined, and at a later date, to have a very strange experience, the first intimidation of a still stranger discovery, but out of that I will speak in the proper place. Looking around with a sudden thought from a terror on which I rested for a while, I realized there were no small little houses to be seen. Apparently, the single house and possibly even the household had vanished. Here and there, among the greenery, were palace-like buildings, but the house and the cottage were for such characteristic features of our own English landscape had disappeared. Communism, said I to myself. And on the heels of this came another thought. I looked at the half-dozen little figures that were following me. Then, in a flash, I perceived that all had the same form of costume, the same soft hair, hairless visage, and the same girlish rotundity of limb. It may seem strange, perhaps, that I had not noticed this before, but everything was so strange. Now I saw all the facts plainly enough, and soon custom and in malt all the different means of texture and bearing, that now mark all of the sexes is from each other. These people of the future were alike, and the children seemed to my eyes to be but the miniatures of their parents. I judged then, and that their children of that time were extremely precocious, physically at least. And I found afterwards abundant verification of my opinion. Seeing the ease and security in which these people were living, I felt that this close resemblance of the sexes was after all what one would expect. For the strength of a man and in the softness of a woman, and the institution of the family and the differentiation of occupation is a mere militant necessity of an age of physical force, where population is balanced and abundant, and much childbearing becomes an evil rather than any blessing to the state, where violence comes but rarely an offspring are secure. There is less necessity. Indeed, there is no necessity for an ancient family, and those specialization and of the sexes is with reference to their children's need disappears. As we see some beginnings of this very in our own time, and this future age is complete. This I must remind you, it was my speculation and of the time at time. Later, I was to appreciate how far it fell short of the reality. While I was musing upon on these things, my attention was attracted by a pretty little structure, like a wall under a cupola. I thought in a transitory way of the oddness of well still existing, and then soon in the thread of my speculations. As there were no large buildings toward the top of the wall of the hill. Well, and as my walking powers were evidently meticulous, I was presently left alone for the first time. With a strange sense of freedom and adventure, I pushed on up to the crest. There I found the scat head of sound yellow metal that I did not recognize. It was corroded in places with a kind of pinkish rust, and half smothered in a soft moss. The armrest cast and fell into the resemblance of griffins' heads as I sat down on it, and I surveyed the broad view of our old world under the sunset of that long day. It was sweet, neat and fair, a view as I have never seen. The sun had already gone below the horizon, and the west was flaming in gold. Touched with some of horizontal bars of purple and crimson, and below was the valley of Thames, in which the river lay like a band in the brush street steel. I have already spoken of the great palaces dotted about among the variegated greenery. Some in ruins and some still unoccupied. Here and there rose a white or a silvery figure in the way garden of the earth. Here and there came the sharp vertical line of some cupola or obelisk. Yes. There were no hedge, no signs into property rights, no evidence of agriculture. The whole earth had become a garden. So watching, I began to put my interpretation upon the things I had seen, and as it shaped itself to me that evening, my interpretation was something in this way. Afterward, I found that I had got only a half truth, or only a glimpse of one facet of the truth. It seemed to me that I had happened upon humanity upon the wane. The ruddy sunset, me thinking of the sunset of mankind. And for the first time, I begin to realize an odd consequence of the social effort in which we are at present engaged, and yet, come to think, it is a logical consequence enough. Strength is the outcome of need. It's security. That's a premium in feebleness. The work of memory ameliorate amelior, ameliorated in conditions of life if the true civilizing process that makes life more and more secure or had gone steadily on into a climax, one triumphant of a united humanity over nature or had followed another. Things that are now mere dreams have become projects deliberately put in hand and then carried it forth. The harvest was what I saw. After all sanitation and the agriculture of today are still in the rudimentary stage. The science of our time has attacked but a little department of the field of human disease. But even so, it appears it spreads its operation very steadily and persistently. Our agriculture and horticulture destroy a weed just as here and there and cultivate perhaps a score or so of wholesome plants, leaving the greater number to fight it out of a balance and says as they can. We more we improve our favorite plants and animals and how few they are gradually by selective breeding. Now we knew better peach. Now a seedless grape. Now a sweeter and larger flower. Now a more convenient breed of cattle. We improve them gradually. Because our idea are vague and tentative. In our knowledge, it is very limited because his nature is a shy and slow in the clumsy hands. Someday he will know this will be a better organized. Isn't still a little better. This is a drift of the current in spite of the eddies. The whole world will be intelligent and educated and cooperating. Things will move faster and faster towards the subjugation of nature in the end. And wisely and carefully we shall readjust the balance of animal and vegetable life to suit our human needs. This adjustment, and I say, he must have been done and done well done indeed for all time, and in the space of time across which my machine had leaped. The air was free from gnats, the earth from weeds or fungi. Everywhere there were fruits and sweet and delightful flowers. Brilliant and butterfly flew hither and thither. The idea of preventive medicine was attained, and disease had been stamped out. I saw no evidence of any contagious diseases during all my stay, and I shall have just tell you later that even the process of purification and decay had been profoundly affected by these changes. Social triumphs, too, had been affected. I saw mankind housed in splendid shelters, gloriously clothed, and as yet I had found in them engaged in no toil. There were no signs of struggle, neither social nor economical struggle. The shop, the advancement tariff, if all the commerce will constitute, it's the body of our world. World was gone. It was nature on the golden evening that I should jump at the idea of a social paradise. The difficulty of increasing populations had been met. I guess in population had ceased to increase. But with the change in condition comes inevitably the adaptation into the change. What unless biological science is a mass of errors is the cause of a human intelligence and vigor, hardship and freedom and conditions under which the active, if strong and settle, will survive, even the weak. Eager go to the wall. Conditions that post a premium upon on the loyal allies of capable men and upon self restraint and patience and decision and in the institution and of the family. And the emotion in that right is therein, and the fear is jealousy, and the tenderness is for offspring, in peril, self devotion, all found on their justification and support, and in the imminent danger is of the young. Now, where are these imminent dangers? There is a sentiment into rising, and it will grow again and continually jealous. Once again, in fierce maternity, again, in passion and of all sorts, and unnecessary things now, and things that may make us uncomfortable, savage, survival, discord, words, words in a refined and passionate life. I thought of the physical slightness of the people, their lack of intelligence, and those big abundant ruins, and it strengthened in my belief in a perfect and conquest of nature. For after the battle comes quiet. Humanity he had been strong and energetic and intelligent, and had used all its abundant vitality to alter the conditions under which it lived, and now came the reaction of the altered conditions. Under the new conditions of perfect comfort and security, that restless energy, that within us is strength, wonderful, will become weakness, even in our own time. Certain tendencies and desires is once necessary to the survival are a constant source of failure. Physical courage and the love of a battle, for instance, are no great help, or may even be hindrances to a civilized man. And in a state of physical balance and security, power, intellectual, as well as physical, would be out of place. For countless years, I judged there had been no danger of war, solidarity, violence, no danger from wild beasts, no way instinct in disease is to require strength of condition, constitution, no need of toil for such a life. But we you should call old we are as well equipped that the strong are indeed no longer weak, better equipped if indeed they are for the strong would be fretted by an energy for which there was no outlet, no doubt. The exquisite beauty of the building, as I saw, was the outcome of the surging wings of the purple, uh, purposeless this energy of mankind, and before it settled down into perfect harmony, which the conditions under which it by which it lived, of the flourishing of the triumph which began in the last great peace. This has ever been in the faint need of energy and security. To take except part art and to eroticism, and then come lingering over a decade, over a decade. Even the artistic impetus would at last die away. He had almost died in the time I saw. To adorn in themselves with flowers, is to dance, to sing in the sunset. Yet so much was left after the artistic spirit. It no more. Even in that would fade in the end into a contented activity. We are kept keen in the grindstone and of pain and necessity, and it seemed to me that here was a handful of grindstone and broken at last. As I stood there here in the gathering dark, I thought that in simple explanation I had mastered the problem of the world, mastered the whole secret of the salacious people, or possibly the checks they had devised for the increase of population had succeeded too well, and their numbers had rather diminished than kept stationary. That would account for the abandoned ruins. Very simple was my explanation, and plausible enough, as most strong theories are. As I stood there musing over this too perfect triumph of men, and the full moon and yellow and gibbous this came up out of an overflow of silver light in the northeast. The bright little figure ceased to move about below. A noiseless owl flitted by and shivered with the chill of the night. I determined to descend and find where I could sleep. I looked for the building I knew. Then, in my eye travel along to the figure of the white Sphinx upon on the pedestal of bronze, and its growing indistinct as the light of the rising moon grew brighter. I could see the silver birch, and again instead there was a lane tangle of rhododendrons and bushes. By heck, the pale blight, and there was this little lawn. I looked at looked at the lawn, and again a queer doubt chilled my complacency. No, I said, stoutly to myself. This was not the lawn, but it was the lawn, for the white leprous this thing was towards it. Can you imagine what I felt? Well, as this conviction came home to me. But you cannot. The time machine was gone. At once, it's like a dash across the face came the possibility of losing my own age, of being left helpless in this strange new world. The bare thought of it was an actual physical sensation. I could feel it grip at me at the throat and stop my breathing. And that is the end of chapter 2. I hope you enjoyed that reading. And let's see, do I have anything left here to drink? Oh, wow, I'm almost at 3 hours here. Well, I believe that ends the show, and just so I don't forget, let's see here. I believe Beta Zord should be doing his show already by now. Yes, he is. he's doing his show already, so you can go check his show out there. And I'll see you there, I guess. Later, all.